Another season is upon us. Freshmen arrive wide-eyed with dreams of future glory, while seniors prepare for their last chance at immortality. There are only a handful of these opportunities in a man's life, a handful of chances to distinguish yourself from the rest. It's on these fields where history is made, where legends begin and heroes triumph. Traditions tell the story of what you represent, of those that forge the legacy you uphold. When you come charging out of the tunnel, 100,000 people will be watching your every move. How you respond to that pressure is what defines you. These are the moments that reveal your toughness, your determination, and your pride. The Roughnecks on the Sooner Schooner. Ralphie charging out of the gate. And Chief Osceola planting his spear. The time has come. Your time is now. Another season is upon us.
You know, the word on the street here is that college baseball has had one of the more cinematic weekends that we've experienced in the recent sports calendar. But what if I told you that we have the privilege to talk about a sport that is cinematic not only when it comes to that postseason, but even in that regular season as well? Welcome, everybody, to College Football Red Zone here tonight. It was a spicy weekend. It might be a little bit closer to getting them bootstraps on, line up on between the white lines, and play some football here real soon, man. Less than 90 days out, to my knowledge. And I am joined by both my right hand and my left hand man, Reed Napper of Love for the Game Pod, as well as Colton from ONO Sports. Boys, how are we doing on this beautiful Monday night?
I'm doing way better than Reed.
Whoa.
Whoa.
How could you make such a proclamation like that?
I just know it. I can just tell the look on your face. You've had an okay day, but I'm just on a whole different playing field right now, unfortunately.
Because you watch the games.
Oh, dude, I watched every single one.
even in his sleep. That's how good he is.
Mm-hmm.
No, but listen, guys, we have an incredible show here tonight. You know, we got the official CFP schedule for the upcoming college football season. You know, we're going to have some hard discussions about that, some disgusting work being done here. People that are in charge of our sport right now, they have to be exposed here tonight. We also got some talk about what's some hypothetical matchups. You know, we're going to go into the minds of the SEC. You know, what hypothetical matchup would you love to see this upcoming season? And then most importantly, probably the spiciest thing that we saw over the course of this weekend as well, Texas and Texas Tech. We're going to get into that beef in depth here tonight. So hopefully you guys are excited for it. But before we jump into it, man, appreciate y'all getting us across 300 subscribers. You know, you are the true 300 Spartans, and I truly appreciate you, man. Getting to the point where we can start to fill up a middle school gymnasium. So I truly appreciate that from the bottom of my heart here, as we're just going to have an incredible show here tonight. Reed's excited for it. Colton's excited for it. I'm excited for it. And so with that being said, guys, boys, I think we need to have some Southwest Conference love brought back on the channel here tonight.
I'm here for it.
Cue the ether beat.
Are we going to actually get it?
I didn't want to get copyrighted.
Yeah,
sorry.
Well,
might not be a great idea.
That's fair. Well, all right. So imagine that you're listening to the ether beat in the background, but as you may know, that Texas and Texas Tech, they've been having some words for each other. So, you know, Texas is out here basically saying, hey, we could basically win the Big 12 of our twos and threes if we wanted to. And then Texas Tech took exception to that and said, hey, you really feel that way? How about you come and play us week one? We'll buy out both of your games. So Boys, it's been a really fascinating last couple of games, and I'm just really curious to hear, like, how are you guys feeling about this beef between Texas and Texas Tech, man?
Well, I mean, it feels fairly one-sided because, Texas wants to feel like they're above it, but I mean, Texas Tech is right there, dude. I get historically they're not on the same playing field, but Texas, I mean, look at last year. I feel like if they played last year, it could have gone either way. So you have Texas already playing 2 Texas-based teams in the non-conference. Why not make it 3?
Mm.
I love that Cody Campbell is getting involved. Like, let's just get the biggest donor possible from each school to just buy out each team's opponent and make this thing happen. Put a number on the table. Cody Campbell will pay the check, and let's get this thing going.
And I've sat back and watched all of this unfold like right before my eyes, and I can't help but think to myself that really 2 things could be true here, though. Like, first things first, Texas Tech. I think we all agree that Texas Tech needs this game on their schedule more than Texas does, because right now I have Texas as the strongest schedule in college football right now, whereas Texas Tech, you could really make the genuine argument it's the weakest schedule in major college football right now, at least in the Power 4. So Texas Tech really needs this game. And for Texas, I'm looking at it from their perspective. Like, you already have the biggest schedule, like the toughest schedule in the sport at this very moment. So switching out Texas Tech to Texas Tech, you're going to go from the number 1 strength of schedule in the country to, again, the number 1 strength of schedule in the country. So I understand it from Texas's perspective, but it feels like a lose-lose because you already opened up this can of worms, and it feels like it would have been completely ignored if you would have just maybe boasted about your own schedule instead of maybe talk bad about some of the other teams in college football. I know it's in June. I know it gets boring, out there, waiting for the sport to come back. But I just couldn't help but think to myself, dude, this could have all been avoided if you just kept your mouth shut.
I mean, I personally love it. I personally love it. And also the fact that of all people to start this beef, it's Steve Sarkisian, who literally schedules one of the toughest teams in all of college football in the non-con and still can't beat them. And then he wants to complain at the end of the season that he can't make the playoff, even though you literally couldn't beat Ohio State to start the season. Just take the Indiana route. If you're going to complain about it, just take the Indiana route, schedule Indiana State in the non-con, and then you're golden. You'll win 3 or 4 of your non-conference games. You're good to go.
Yeah, I mean, Sark, if you're listening to this, I apologize for my co-host. He's a little out of line saying all that. I mean, it might be true, but still. My solution, I mean, we're far enough out to where we can look ahead to 2027 and see in the non-conference for Texas, we have New Mexico State, Michigan, and UTEP. I feel like if all 3 of those are home games, get rid of one of them. If you want to keep it not the hardest schedule or around not becoming the hardest schedule in football, just drop Michigan. I mean, sure, would that be a great game on its own? Yes. But Texas Tech, I mean, it's hard to get more cinematic than that. It really is hard to get more cinematic than that. And Michigan and Texas Tech, at least now, I think are on a similar playing field. So it wouldn't be that much of a difference. Unless you are okay with playing New Mexico, or instead of playing New Mexico, playing Michigan and Texas Tech, which, I mean, go for it. If you lose both of those games, oh well. But I mean, two great matchups in potentiality there. It's not going to happen this season. We would all love for it to happen, but if we're talking about buyouts, if we're talking about, hey, put your money where your mouth is, 2027. I mean, Michigan's probably a lower buyout in Texas than Ohio State this year.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you mentioned like the 2027 non-conference schedule for Texas specifically, because I mean, obviously Michigan I think is going to be a really good program next year under Kyle Whittingham. But you look at New Mexico State under Tony Sanchez. I mean, is that going to be the same coaching staff next year out there in La Cruces, New Mexico? We're not 100% sure there. A little bit of pressure there for Tony Sanchez. How about Scotty Walden out in UTEP? A little bit of competitive pressure in his first year in the Mountain West. Is Scotty Walden going to be there as a head coach for UTEP. So you're looking at 2 out of the 3 games that you're going to play in the non-conference. You're going to play them at home. You could be looking at teams that are going to be breaking in a brand new coaching staff going into next season anyways. And so I sit back and look at it, and it makes me wonder, hey, man, we could definitely drop one of these games, but I also don't want to say that it's not completely impossible, because I know that the COVID year was an absolute asterisk of a football season. But we have seen the situation, though, where Coastal Carolina was looking for a football game in light of some COVID issues on the other side. BYU was also looking for an opponent because their opponent canceled because of COVID, and they were able to get a game set up within 5 to 6 days. So I know that it's very unusual to see scheduling changes to the season less than 100 days out. But we do have a blueprint to make it happen. It's just a question of how do we get there? And to be honest, usually I'm not a proponent of neutral site games. I think games like this should belong on home campuses. But let's also be honest here. Texas Tech is not going to give up a home game to play a true road game out in Austin, Texas. That's not going to happen. Texas is not going to give up one of their home games as well to go play a true road game out in Lubbock. It's a hostile environment. If we want this game to happen this year, I will say you're probably looking at playing this one in Jerry's World.
Or Houston. But
Energy Stadium.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like that stadium, like Houston Stadium, though, like it doesn't have the same aura as Jerry's World. Like, come on now.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. There's more oil money funded in the Jerry Stadium. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
You're right.
No, but like what I was saying is, how often do we hear, oh, this home and home got canceled? It's like sure. I mean, it's not even a home and home. I don't think Texas plays Michigan in 2028. Did they play them last? No, they played them in 2024.
Yes.
So they
Texas
had
went.
that.
Texas went to the big house. Yeah.
I mean, if you drop Michigan, who's gonna at this point over a year out from that game, who's really gonna think twice about that? I mean, sure, Michigan fans might be like, oh, they're scared. And by the time this season starts, everybody will be talking about, oh, I can't wait for Texas and Texas Tech to play next season. How often we have cancellations and home and homes. Oh, instead of playing a tough team, we're going to schedule nobodies and get a free win in the non-conference. So I feel like it wouldn't be that big of a deal if it's that much in advance. It's probably going to happen anyways at some point when the SEC absolutely eats itself this year with the 9-game conference schedule. And they're like, I don't want to play a tough opponent. So we might not even get to Texas Tech for that reason. But, for better or for worse, I feel like this needs to happen. It's got to happen. We have the fire from the fan bases. We have the fire now from the athletic departments, the coaches. Let's just make it happen. While we have this passion for it, let's not. Well, we'll see it. We'll wait it out. We'll see it. If it happens, we'll do that. Just do it.
Yeah. We need it sooner rather than later, because we need it while the beef is hot. We need it while the beef is still cooking.
Yeah, especially like in this news cycle where like this time a couple of weeks from now, we might forget that this like whole thing would have happened unless there are some bookmarks that are made like out in the Twitter land. But I mean, for this year, I do think it's a lose-lose. And I think Joey McGuire did a wonderful job calling him out on it, trying to poke some fun at the Big 12, because it comes out like this. If Texas Tech somehow gets this game, it's an incredible boost to the strength of schedule for them, because as of right now, how things stand, they're either going to have to go undefeated in the regular season or win the Big 12 championship. They are not going to get in as an 11-1 team and lose in the Big 12 championship, because their schedule right now, absolute garbage. It is a joke. It is a disgrace. And so I completely understand Steve Sarkisian taking shots at programs like Texas Tech, because the level of difficulty is simply not the same. But if you make these comments and then Texas Tech says, hey, we want to play you guys, and then we're like, nah, we're not going to do that. I mean, it just shows that you have a lot of bark, but not a lot of bite, as they were saying, like on the Pat McAfee show the other day. So I'm hoping that it happens because I think it's an incredible regional rivalry, even though Texas historically has gotten the better of Texas Tech. But whether it actually happens or not, I mean, we'll just have to wait and see. But I am curious, though, if this game were to happen and Texas Tech still had Brandon Sorsby, who would y'all take on a neutral side field? You rolling with Texas Tech with Brandon Sorsby? Hypothetically speaking, of course, this is hypothetical show here tonight, or y'all rolling with Texas?
That is a tough one because really all we have to go on is last year. If you look at the game versus Oregon, Texas Tech, I mean, they held their own defensively for long enough. They didn't have Brendan Sorsby, obviously, but offensively, you could argue it probably wasn't going to matter. With Brendan Sorsby, oh man, that's so tough. I would still probably take Texas just because I'm higher on Texas's offensive line this year. It's really hard to predict that just based off of we're not going to see Texas Tech with Brendan Sorsby, hopefully, but it definitely would be a hard fight. It would be closer to Oklahoma, Texas, I think, this past year, how for the first half it was like a one possession game, and then obviously it broke through and ended up being an upset, but it definitely screams more trench battle than lights out. I think Brendan Sorsby doesn't necessarily change that for Texas Tech. I would still say Texas is the more explosive team overall than Tech is. I would probably still go Texas at a neutral site.
Yeah, ditto to that. And Colton brought up a good point. I think Texas just has more in the trenches than Texas Tech can handle, especially defensively. I mean, Colin Simmons, first and foremost, Rasheem Biles at linebacker. I mean, just defensively, Texas has a lot more going for him. So I feel like that they could find a way, especially with Will Muschamp now leading that defense. I feel like they could find a way to not completely shut down Brendan Sorsby, but at least neutralize him, make him one-dimensional. But, I mean, another quick point, Texas Tech needs to find a non-conference opponent for next year. They only have 2 right now. Just saying that.
Hang on. I mean,
it's really it's on Texas right now. Next year.
Yeah, and I do think that's the best case scenario that we get out of this is that we do see Texas and Texas Tech set up some kind of like home and home, whereas like what probably would happen is Texas Tech would go to Texas first, and then Texas would go to like Lubbock, like in 28 or 29 or something like that, depending on how the non-conference schedule is going for Texas. I will say this. I think Texas Tech is going to be really good in the trenches, and they earn a ton of respect for me from the defensive side of the ball, given how anemic they were offensively with Bayron Morton at the quarterback in that Oregon game. I remember watching it. I couldn't help but think to myself, man, if this wasn't an elite defense, like this game would have been over by halftime. It probably would have been like 49-7 or something like that, given how good the field position was for the Oregon Ducks throughout most of that game versus Texas Tech. And I think the defense, I think that's a defense that's good enough to win, especially when you insert, Brendan Sorsby, hypothetically speaking, because this is a hypothetical show. I look at that as, hey, I think Sorsby would have been better than Bayron Morton, and he's going to have some weapons to work with on the outside as well. I feel like that's the type of game where I think Tech can pull that upset off. I think they actually beat Texas, especially if Arch Manning doesn't take that next step forward, as maybe some folks in major college media are anticipating.
Yeah, and I think if we're talking back in reference to 2025, when the pass pro was a bit of a question mark, when the offensive line was a bit, shaky at best, you definitely have an argument there. I feel like they will take a step forward, but obviously with the pass rushers now, they have Trey White. Last year they had, his name is escaping me. Oh, it's David Bailey. They had Lee Hunter, who, I mean, he's a gap specialist more than a pure pass rusher, but made an impact on the quarterbacks. With the type of talent, like you said, on defensive line, they're definitely more than capable of getting to Arch Manning, getting him uncomfortable. The biggest thing for me in this upcoming season is even if you add Brendan Sorsby offensively, it's still two top defenses. Tech maybe beats out Texas in that regard, maybe has the edge as a whole defensively.
Yeah.
But offensively, even if you're affecting Arch, he still has a mobile element to his game, which Sorsby does as well. So it's not, completely null and void there. But with the weapons that Texas has on the perimeter, with the weapons they'll have at running back now, I think they're at least somewhat comparable to Texas Tech now, whereas Texas Tech easily had the edge in that department last season. I feel like I'm still going to favor Texas just because of that explosive upside, whereas Tech is really just a grind it out, or at least was a grind it out type of offense last year.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. Would be incredible cinema. Hope that it happens somehow. Probably won't, because Texas might be a little too scared, but that's okay. Because there is a non-zero chance that we see Texas Tech and Texas possibly play each other in the college football playoffs. So this is going to play itself out eventually, whether Texas wants to play this game or not, or at least in my opinion. But now that we're out here talking about hypothetical games, we're out here talking about Texas, and we're talking about Texas Tech. It made me wonder, what other games that we would really love to see, for the 2026 college football season, or maybe not immediately this year, but maybe in future seasons, what we would love to see. And so I'm just curious to hear, what games immediately come to mind for you guys when it comes to games that aren't necessarily going to happen this year, but we would love to make happen if we had a magic wand and could change the things around with the schedule.
Would you like to go first, Reed, or?
Yeah, I mean, first one that comes to mind for me is Penn State and Pitt. They had that stretch when Saquon and Trace were there in the early now late 2010s, mid to late 2010s, and we played them for a handful of years. But I mean, I think they have to bring back that rivalry. Personally, I mean, the fans don't like each other. I can attest to that. First and foremost, I do not like Pitt fans at all. Second of all, it's the battle of the Keystone State. I mean, really, Penn State doesn't have a major rival within state. I mean, they've played Temple more recently than they have played Pitt. So, and we play Temple this year, but I think it's the two biggest brands in the state. I think you have to make it an annual rivalry, just like Iowa State. I mean, Iowa State, no matter what, play each other every year, and they're going to continue to play each other every year. So I think just having the two biggest brands in the state of Pennsylvania play each other in a state that football literally means everything, I think it's a pretty clear-cut choice for me, at least off the top.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. There's definitely a few rivalries that I wish would come back in a non-conference element now that teams have realignments kind of messed everything up. Bedlam comes to mind. That's one that I would love to see every year.
Yeah.
Oklahoma, Nebraska. We saw that in the late 2010s, similarly to the Penn State Pitt. But it's one of those where it's underrated because now they're in different conferences, former Big 12, former just conference members in Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. But it's just the rivalries, Civil War, that's a good one in the comments. In terms of non-necessarily rivalry matchups, I personally would really like to see BYU and Indiana. I think those two match up very well with each other. I think Indiana would win that because I think they're a little bit better overall. But BYU, they have similar styles both offensively and defensively. They both live and die by the line play. And I think both line plays can stack up against each other. I think BYU is probably a little underrated in that regard. I really like Bear Backmeyer too. He was essentially Mendoza without the Heisman hype, where he's an absolute dog, willing to put his nose down, fight for extra yards, to get into the end zone. I just love BYU overall as a program where they're at right now. I think if you match them up with a few Big Ten teams, maybe a Michigan, that might be more fitting this year because Jay Hill obviously makes the jump from BYU to Michigan. So there's a little bit of that rivalry element to it, at least. I don't know if you guys have any in mind. I would just like at some point a cross Power 4 what's it called in basketball? A challenge.
Yeah.
So wherever you finished in your conference last season, next season, the SEC might play the Big 12, and the 5th team in the SEC plays the 5th team in the Big 12 in the out of conference. That would be so much fun, I think.
Yeah, and like the SEC and the Big 12, that would work beautifully because right now, I mean, the SEC and the Big 12, they literally have the same number of teams. So, I mean, if you wanted to make that happen on a yearly basis, you absolutely could, and you don't even have to do anything like unique, like so to speak, in terms of leaving certain teams out. I also love that BYU Indiana poll. That's would be an absolutely incredible coaching matchup. You know, we talk about Kirk Cinetti as being like the top head coach in all of college football. But then also like Kalani Sitake, like he was getting a lot of love and interest as the head coach of Penn State. You know, there was a lot of buzz about him going to Happy Valley, and he ended up signing that extension. Love that he's going to stay in BYU. I think he fits that program so incredibly well. So from a coaching perspective, I definitely love that matchup. For me, when I was sitting back and looking at it, as I was putting my ear on the ground, one that I saw very popular in the mentions today, Penn State versus Virginia Tech. James Franklin game, and particularly if James Franklin with his Virginia Tech team goes up to Happy Valley, first trip back since being fired as the head coach of Penn State. I would be very intrigued to see how he ends up being received. I think with what he did for the program over the years, I would hope that it's a warm reception, but because of maybe the disappointment on the national level, that it might be a little bit more negative at first. But if you give it like 10 to 15 years, I think it would be like a standing O type of guy. Just would depend on when that game would happen. I think that would be incredible to watch just from a pure storyline perspective. One rivalry game that is not going to be played every year, but it has been up until last year, SMU and TCU, Battle of the Iron Skillet.
Yep.
You know, like SMU can play, boys. Like this is not your daddy's SMU that was dealing with the death penalty and was dealing in the doldrums of the American. No, like SMU, like they got some boys down there in Dallas, Texas, and I know you know, TCU and SMU, when those two get together, that's usually a really fun matchup from an offensive perspective, regardless of whether it's happening at SMU or at TCU. Like that would be a really incredible matchup. And then the third one for me that I came up with just off the dome, as a Buckeye guy, like through and through, Ohio State and Cincinnati. You know, Ohio State has been the standard bearer for the state of Ohio when it comes to Ohio, you know, Buckeye State athletics. But I mean, Cincinnati, that's a power conference team too. And I know that Ohio State and Cincinnati play each other a handful of times in the past, but I would love to see some kind of home and home setup to where every once in a while Ohio State's coming down to Cincinnati, checking out Nippert Stadium. I think that would be really fun, at least for those that live in the state of Ohio, and be a good showcasing opportunity for Nippert Stadium, because I think it's an underrated stadium in our sport right now.
Yeah, and you can go ahead.
No, I mean, I totally agree. I think some of these major power teams have to play fellow power teams within states. At least teams that have multiple power teams within states, like Ohio State, Cincinnati, Penn State, Pitt, like just the biggest brands in the state, I think have to at least somewhat make it a regular thing to play each other. Like one that I was going to bring up, Virginia Tech and West Virginia. That is one of the oldest rivalries in the Appalachian area. Like Virginia Tech and West Virginia hate each other. Those fan bases do not like each other because it's really who runs the Virginias essentially. So that was one I was going to bring up. Colton brought up Michigan. Immediate thought for Michigan is Notre Dame. They played each other a few times in the 2000s, early 2010s, and that rivalry went away. I think Notre Dame they play Michigan State this year. Notre Dame playing Michigan State, like just those teams from the Big Ten. I mean, they're playing Wisconsin this year. Like just those teams in the upper Midwest, I think they have to play on a regular basis just for regionality's sake.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing, but I'll make it even more broad. Notre Dame versus anybody worth a while, you know?
Yeah.
Let's get Notre Dame, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Michigan, Notre Dame, Georgia, just somebody.
Notre Dame,
somebody
USC. Let's bring that
Notre
back
Dame,
too while
USC,
we're at it.
Notre Dame, Tennessee, Notre Dame, Texas. But I also want to bring up, I just looked it up, the standings, and this is just Google. I'm not sure if the actual websites will have it in a different order. But just looking at this potential, if we did hypothetically do the challenge, SEC versus Big 12, of course, some teams, get worse off than others because you have an Iowa State that finished 7th in the Big 12. They'd be facing Vanderbilt. So kind of similar. I mean, obviously Iowa State gets hit worse with what they lose this year than Vanderbilt, but Vanderbilt loses a healthy amount as well. So that's a pretty cool matchup. You have at the top, Texas Tech, Georgia. It definitely challenges the top end of each conference, I think more so than the middle or the bottom. But then at 4, Houston, Texas A&M, sneaky decent matchup. A lot of good trench play in that. You have BYU, Alabama for who should have been in the playoff versus who shouldn't. There's a ton of cool storylines just baked into a lot of these. Even at the bottom, Oklahoma State versus Arkansas. Who wouldn't want to watch that? That sounds like just straight ass, but I mean in the best way possible. At least from last year, Oklahoma State. It might be better this year.
Hey, listen, that Oklahoma State Arkansas game, that might be like a 1st to 50 type situation. I mean, I don't know what Oklahoma State's defense is going to look like this year. I have some questions about it, and I've talked about it multiple times on this show. But man, Drew Mustamaker spinning that bean. Like Arkansas's got some good offensive pieces as well. It could legitimately be like, hey, whoever gets to 50 first, that's going to be the winner. Both of those teams could be cheeks this year, but that would be so incredibly fun to watch just as an offensive purist myself.
Yeah. One that I just thought of real quick, because ironically enough, in college football 25, my first dynasty was with South Florida. War on I-4. Them and UCF, like they used to be American opponents, and I can't remember which year it was. They played each other, and I think UCF had to win to go to the American Conference title game, where they won the American Conference title, and it was like a complete shootout at UCF. I can't remember which year that was, but I mean, that's just one that came off the top of my mind. And I mean, you guys know me, I'm a South Florida lover, so that's just one that came to the top of my head.
Yeah. And it's a bit off topic, but if we do eventually go to like super conferences and then have it at least base regionality, that would be, I mean, if you had like Cincinnati, Kentucky, all these teams that are kind of in the same area, at least in like a pod. Obviously, we can't do that now. I mean, we can do it with the out of conference, but you're asking a lot for Cincinnati to be like, you know what, on top of our Texas Tech, at BYU, whoever, we're going to schedule at Kentucky in the out of conference. It's like, our team's going to do that? Probably not.
You know what? I'm glad that you brought up my Cincinnati Bearcats, because you know what else needs to come back? I need some bag of kegs in my life. I need some Cincinnati and Louisville. I remember when those two teams randomly, by pure chance, met up for the Fenway Bowl. And it was right after Scott Satterfield was hired as the head coach of Cincinnati, hired away from Louisville. And those two teams were playing. I remember they literally brought the bag of nails, the keg of nails to that game. They didn't even care about that Fenway Bowl trophy, one of the most obscure trophies in our sport. No, we want the keg. And you know what? As a Cincinnati guy, and we're getting a little bit better as a program, I want my get back. I want my get back against Jeff Brom in Louisville. I want that keg of nails to be back in the Ohio State border. The fact that it's sitting south of the Ohio River right now, it bothers me as an Ohio guy to the core. Like, let's bring it back, spot the damn ball.
Yeah, and you're getting into stuff that, the elites of college football don't want to talk about, and that's fan service, We deserve that. We deserve games like that, but we can't get them.
Well, even like the classical matchups, like, I mean, Colton, for you as a Nebraska person, like Nebraska, Miami played a bunch of big time matchups, like Nebraska, Oklahoma, that's regional, but also two blue bloods of the sport. Let's not forget, there were some major blue bloods that played each other regularly back in the day, let alone for like a BCS national championship. So I think bringing back those historical games that have just had meaningful moments, like let alone not a real rivalry, but like they've played a handful of times and they were really good matchups. So like, I mean, for example, like a Nebraska, Miami, something like that.
Yeah. Nebraska, Tennessee, Nebraska, Notre Dame, Nebraska,
versus the world.
Literally. But there are, you're right, there definitely are old historic, not necessarily rivalries, but meetings that that hold weight.
Yeah.
And we just don't get a ton of those anymore, because why would you?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, like, at the very least, we have the FBS debut bowl
Trademark.
coming this year. Very
Trademark.
excited about it. We do have some the border war between Kansas and Missouri that's been sitting dormant for a long time. We got the CVAT game last year, and we got the CVAT this year. And shoot, maybe if I'm lucky, maybe I'll get a little bit of D3 luck. Maybe we'll get a Bluffton and a Juniata matchup here in the Division 3 ranks. To give me a reason to talk some smack. On a random Saturday while I'm trying to find the game on Flow Sports or something.
Yeah, behind a paywall.
behind the paywall. But you know what? That's what I'm sure there's some people that may know about not having to deal with that paywall as much. That
nah, what are you talking about?
Not saying that I know how to do that, but I'm sure that there's others that are more versed.
We're all above board here at College Football Red Zone.
We all follow the rules. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, outstanding citizens. And speaking of being outstanding, it would be truly outstanding for me if you went ahead and hit that subscribe button for us real fast. We just hit 300 subscribers here. We're approaching 2K on Twitter. If we can hit 2,000 followers before the start of the season, dude, that would be absolutely incredible. It would warm up my cold dead heart again. It would warm up his cold dead heart again. It will warm up his cold dead heart a third time again, so much so that we may get one of these memes again. But with that being said, before we go ahead and sign off here tonight, there was one other thing that we wanted to talk about here on the show. And this one specific thing, I saw it today. And if you've been tuned into college football content for quite some time, this shouldn't be a huge surprise, but just seeing it laid out on paper. I saw it. I know you guys saw it. And to be frank with you, I was disgusted by what I saw. So, a little bit of a trigger warning here, but I am going to throw it up on screen. We're going to get through this together, though, okay? It's going to be tough, but we're going to get through this. Here it is, the broadcast schedule. I know it's hard, and I know, Reed. Come back. Come on. Don't you do it. But it's so incredible sitting back and looking at this that we have a postseason, and I don't know what it is. We have the postseason worked out well, for the FCS ranks in Division 2 and Division 3. The NFL apparently has it set up pretty well when it comes to their postseason. And yet for us, I don't know what it is. We have an incredibly hard time in terms of spacing. I'm sure you guys felt a similar way when you saw this earlier today too.
Yeah, 2 weeks in between games, it's ridiculous, and it makes perfect sense why. We want all eyes to be on the playoff, because even though we're going to be anyways, we can't dare to compete with the Las Vegas Bowl. We're going to have the on-campus games. We're going to have to wait, and then we're going to have the quarterfinals, and we're going to have to wait some more. We're going to have the semifinals, and then we're going to have to wait a whole another 2 weeks, and then we'll have the national championship.
I mean, the biggest thing for me, let's be real. Playoff expansion is inevitable at this point. And the fact they want to expand the playoff to 24 or more teams, and we're still going to play a national championship at the end of January. If you're going to expand the playoff, you better fix the calendar first and foremost, because you better move up the season, or conference championships are probably going to get eliminated at that point. So that opens up another 2-week window. But you got to fix the calendar first and foremost. To Colton's point, you can't wait 2 weeks between games. I understand the magnitude of these games. You want to be able to game plan and practice and get ready for these games, but you're already doing that in a weekly basis. Why do you need a whole 2 weeks? I don't understand it. But mainly my biggest thing is we cannot be playing the national championship at the end of January. I think it has to be January 1st. I'm a major proponent of that.
And the crazy thing is I think even if we adopt a 2014 playoff, which to be honest, I think that it's coming anyways, based on how the other power conferences are voting. Like literally everyone, the SEC is the only thing that's stopping us from having a 2014 playoff. And it seems like at least this year, we will not have a 2014 playoff. We're going to stay at 12 because we're not soon enough. We're too close to change the playoff format, at least now. But how I'm looking at it is, and I can see why, for the quarterfinal teams, the teams that are going to be in the top 4 and get a bye to the quarterfinal, they're going to be at a tremendous disadvantage. I mean, think about it. The season for the regular season ends late November, around Thanksgiving. And if you're playing a conference championship game, you might be playing in the first week of December, but you're talking about being off for close to 30 days. While the teams that you're going to go up against, they at least got a chance to hit somebody a couple of weeks ago. And it's why that we've seen at least these first couple of years of the 12-team playoff, really struggle, especially in the first half. Indiana was an exception, but I mean, Indiana was 1-1 in this 12-team playoff era. I mean, think about Ohio State. Ohio State looked anemic in their game against Miami. Think about Texas Tech. I mean, Texas Tech did not look like a viable football team offensively against Oregon. There's countless examples of teams. Georgia's another one. They were a bye week team 2 years in a row, and they looked anemic 2 years in a row. So that was one thing that stuck out to me, is that once again, these bye week teams are going to be at a disadvantage. And how are we playing a national championship game on a Monday?
Let me stop you right there, because I just looked this up. We have, hold on, I need to count. This will take a minute. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 games. 11 games being played throughout the postseason. Guess how many of these games are played on a Saturday?
I don't think it's not a single one, is it?
3. 2. The December 19th games. There's 3 Saturday games. The rest are on Monday, Thursday, Friday, Wednesday. And it makes sense with New Year's Day. It happens every year. It's not a big deal. But for not the semifinals, not the championship, and 75% of the on-campus games to be played on a Saturday. This is our sport. This is the Saturday sport. Can we please play these games on a Saturday? Please.
We've all said it. We all value Saturdays in the fall.
Yeah.
What can we value Saturdays in December and January, please?
Apparently not. Apparently that's too much to ask for.
No, because you forget, Colton, people that run the sport don't have brains. Forgot.
And here, another crazy thing about it too is that I understand that some of it has to do with trying not to compete with the NFL, but our sport has exploded in popularity, where if you ask whether you would prefer college football or whether you prefer NFL, the majority of people would probably say college. I understand that it's not as good of a product as the NFL from a pure on-field standpoint. It's the NFL. It's the best players in the whole world, right? Completely get that. But you want to talk about the pageantry, the traditions, and the chaos. I mean, college is easily surpassing the NFL, and it creates a more fun sport at the end of the day, right? So I don't understand why we are so scared to compete with the NFL when we have competed in popularity with these guys for quite some time. It blows my mind. And as you mentioned, if we don't get that fixed before we go to a 2014 playoff, I mean, we're talking about the season ending in February. If we don't get it fixed.
If you're worried about the NFL, is there an NFL game? Is there an AFC or NFC championship played that Saturday? We're playing the championship game on a Monday. I mean, it's possible. I'd have to look it up if it's going to be competing, because you can have it on a Saturday. It's not who are you competing with on Saturdays?
But we can get Texas Tech and TCU on Thanksgiving night when there's NFL games. And I know what I'm tuning into.
Oh yeah, I'm tuning into that game 100%. Jaden Craig, trying to go at it against that Tech defense. Sign me up. That TCU might be a dog, but you know what? My new favorite adage, like he may be an underdog, but it's still a dog at the end of the day. Like that's going to be an exciting game on Thanksgiving if both teams live up to expectations for sure. But yeah, like it's a little bit of a head scratcher to like continue to see this. But like the fact that it's going to take over a month to play 11 games, that's crazy to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll be competing with the AFC and NFC divisional on Saturday. Which get out of here, dude.
Womp womp, dude.
You guys can do Friday. Like what? Give us Saturday.
Yeah, So I'm gonna put this away here because it's just gonna continue to drive me up a wall. We're gonna go ahead and remove this. If I can figure out how, we're just gonna stop that like debauchery. You don't need to see my face. Like, but dude, that's about like gonna go ahead and like wrap things up here tonight. It's been a fun show, like to talk some ball with you guys.
Sorry, not to interrupt you. We do have a question from the crowd in the chat. If you
do, we have a question in the crowd?
We do.
Oh, we talk about from
Real Room.
CFB Real Room.
Oh, you're talking about this one right here?
I am. Yeah. I mean, we don't have to get into it, but I figured there's a question posed to us. Why not?
Like instead of talk about like getting like to the national championship game?
To get it, this is in the national championship?
Well, that's what I'm presuming.
I think just get in the playoff.
Well,
they have an auto bid.
Well, yeah. I think they're asking like what teams specifically, but we don't have to get into it. I just, with how much we just dogged the CFP for not being men of the people, why not be men of the people ourselves? And
yeah,
I have Boise State. I will go ahead and say that I'll have Boise State or probably UNLV or Memphis as my group of 6.
We all know who I have. So
yeah, we all know like you're a lover of Brian Hartline, and you secretly wish Brian Hartline would invite you down to campus with how much you love to talk about him. I'm going with Boise State as well. I'm keeping an eye out for a couple of other teams though. I'm keeping an eye out on what UNLV does, and I'm keeping an eye out for James Madison as well. They do have that reputation of being in the college football playoff, and they played a competitive game against Oregon. No, they don't have a like a Power 4 team on their schedule, but if James Madison could run the table and UNLV loses multiple games and Boise State loses multiple games as well, I think there's a path for James Madison to get back in. UNLV is going to have a big one against Cal. If UNLV can beat Cal, and I think Cal could have a solid season. Colin, I know you're high, representing the Cal algorithm here tonight as well. But yeah, I think those 3 teams would be my favorites. Definitely not Liberty though. I'm not making that mistake 2 years in a row.
No.
To further elaborate, yes, I love South Florida. Boise State is clear and above the best G6 team though. That's without a doubt. We can all agree on that. UNLV is a good shout. I mean, personally, I'm high on New Mexico. I think New Mexico has a real shot this year. Not for the G6, but I think they will at least be in the conversation. Also, just off the top of my head, I mean, Jake, we've talked about it before. The Navy midshipman, dude. I'm telling you.
I think Navy could be Navy's the best team in the American. I think that's certainly
yeah. I think they're the number 1 odds, and
they are the favorite.
Yeah,
they're the favorite,
which is surprising because it's like, how much do we really know about this team?
Yeah, we have no idea. We have no idea about quarterback.
It's like, is the kid that they bring in off the poop deck gonna do it for him this year?
Yeah, and it makes I think the American personally is going to be one of the more fascinating teams to like conferences. I think in all of college football this year. Like I look at the American and I could see a legitimate path for 6 to 7 teams. No meme necessary to make it to the title game at the end of the year. And I don't think you could really say that about any other conference in all of college football. Like you can't really say that about like the Pac-12 where it feels like, like maybe like 3 teams, it feels like have a real legitimate shot getting to the Pac-12 title game, or, kind of a similar path for like Mountain West. It's kind of like 4, maybe like 5 at most. Like the American feels the most open to me. And that's why I'm the most excited to watch that conference in particular, because I think it's going to be the most chaotic. Now, does Navy make it to the American title game? I have absolutely no idea. Your guess is as good as mine. But I mean, it's going to be a conference to watch this year.
I mean, shoot, we have UAB followers that would tell us UAB's making the conference championship game,
and they could.
We have FAU fans that think they can make the conference championship game,
and that's
not saying they can't. Not saying they can't, but
yeah. And the thing about FAU is, like, if you tell me that like Colton Vedkamp is going to actually get the turnovers under control, he's going to play like just the good version of Jameis Winston and not the good and the bad version of like Jameis Winston while he was on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Like, I can see a path for FAU to make it to the title game. But I mean, he's got to show that he can make good decisions and take care of the football. That's really the big question here. But like, I mean, Zach, like UAB can't be worse either.
Colton heard FAU and got tired.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We're in the trenches, guys, with this.
Those damn owls.
We gotta figure this one out, guys. We're talking about FAU on.
But hey, with that being said, guys, since we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna get ready to like sign off here tonight. Boys, thank you guys so much for joining me here on the show. I always love like talking ball with you guys as we get less than 90 days out from the college football season. I genuinely appreciate it. I appreciate all you guys coming in and watching. You know, it definitely warms up my heart, you know, to see you guys out here enjoying the show. You know, we're seeing it grow, and that's just an incredibly beautiful thing. And hopefully, you know, we could do some big things like this fall. But for now, this is Jake from College Football signing off with Reed Napper and Colton from O&O Sports. Hope you guys are all out there having a good night. Take care.